Hello everyone. In the last video of Ruby learning, we have finished until the block. So in this video, we're gonna start from the last tutorial. So let's recap what we have covered so far. So we started with the first Ruby program. We tried to print some data. We have seen some string interpolation and some variable and assignment and scope of the variable. We have also seen some naming convention on Ruby, and also some methods example in Ruby, how to write a method, how to pass some parameters. We have also seen some details about string and how to use this w, %w, or the percentage I, and encoding details in the string as well. We have also seen some conditional statement. We have also seen case expression, and we finish up with the blocks. In the summary page, we notice that we also have seen like if else or condition. We also have seen the equal and difference between equal, equal, and double equal sign. So let's move on to the next chapter, which is array. Array is very useful in Ruby. So if you can think about array is a list of values, consequence value, something like that, consequence. Okay. Okay, think about the list of data in a sequence way. So what I mean is like if you define a empty array, you define something like this, which we have empty, open square bracket and closing bracket. And if you want to put a value, you put the 0 index. You define a value with 0 values with a 5, something like that, and then you can access a value based on the index. So let's copy this whole thing and explain why and what is happening in there. Okay, so let's start from the first. Okay, so we put the bar1 as 0, and then we have this we try to print the first and we receive empty here. Then we put 5 with the initial value, we receive and we print that 0 index and we find the value 5, and we define a string which is like hello and goodbye, and in the puts we put the 0 index and 1 index. We found that hello and goodbye. Remember, array is always starting with index 0, and then we declare a variable called flavor as a mango, and then we declare the variable 4 with some decimal value string and then another different value. And if we print the value of 2, so it's a 0 index, 1 index, and 2 index, we should be able to print this true and false. And if we notice that we have this true and false, we can do another way also. Since it's a array of array, we can say 0 index also. This will print the true, and if we say 1, this will print the false. And then on the name, we have this 0 index, 1 index, 2 index, and 3 index. So we have this Satish, Talim, Ruby, and Java, so which is expected. But if we want to access the index 4, it will return as a null, which means it doesn't have any value. And then if we set the value as Pune and then access the 4, we receive the Pune. But we can also add anything. On the 5th index, we add a decimal number which also is accessible. and then we 6 we access, we put another list of array, and if we try to access that, that is also is available. 1 2 3. We have a new array, and then we have different methods here. So new array is like 43 something, and if we say sort, what it gonna do is like it will gonna sort the array with the ascending order. So first 1, then 23 45 and 90. Then we say length, we're gonna give the size of this array is 4. First element we're gonna return 45, and last element we're gonna return as 90. We have the list of location here, so we can loop over this location and print here, right? So what we can do is like location dot each. We have this location. We can have other parameters also, index and everything. We'll see that later. So and then we said that I love this location and don't you, something like that. So I love this Pune, Mumbai, Bengaluru. Then we have this delete also. So delete will gonna empty up this, and then we will gonna see that we after we delete the Mumbai is not showing up here anymore. So that's the most of the basic array interpolation. So we can see other example also, right? Here we have seen example like we have a method called mtd array, and we have this 10 times do num, so it will gonna loop over 10 times, and we have this square equal to num into num. So we do the power, and every time it will return the num square if num is greater than 5. Let's see what it does. Okay, so once we print out, we notice that it is 6 and 36. So what does it mean is first we have this num and square, and we have this empty array, right? And then what we do is like empty array have 2 return. So what I mean is if you do the same thing here again, and if you do the rest here, you notice that both value will be defined as separate. So this is called abstracting a array, or destruction of a array element. So we destruct by the number and a square. So first will be number 6, and 36 is a square. Okay, so 10 times 2, so each time number is square is a value, and what we do is that we are returning the number and a square when number is greater than 5. So every time number 1 come, so 1 2 3 4 something like that, and then number will be 1 2 3 4, so like this, and it will come like 4 and 5, and then when 6 is come, 6 will gonna come and it will return this value, and then 7 will also 6 will gonna return, but when it come to 7, it will not execute, since we have this return already, so it will not execute anymore. But if we didn't have this return, right, it will execute the last index, which will be 9. So we can say we cannot do this. So what we can do is we can define a local variable probably in here, and we can do that, but let's not go in the difficult route. But this is how it works. So on this 6 it will gonna execute, right? Then we have this another list. Here we have a list of array, and then from this array we have a b c a b. We can see that we have this 1 2 3 4 for the a, and same as 1 2 3 4 as b. And if we use a comma here, that will tell us is like it's a array. So similar, if you have a square bracket, that also gives us a array. So both are similar assignment, but we call it parallel assignment. And in Ruby we have this environment variable, right? env is nothing but a global data. So if we do that, we gonna print out all our environment. There are some of the, I believe there are some data. Let's not go through this. We have this home environment, everything we can see, and we can set the environment as well and access the environment as well from here as well. We have this command line argument, which is like argument. When we pass something in a command, we can print this. What I mean is, let's say we have this and we pass a test, it will print the test. So this is how it takes the command from the argument. We have this different library, get opt long, something like that, so we're gonna access more details of that. We can access. So this is one example here. And here we have this string, and if we put a string to array class, it will gonna get the array. Wherever we have the array, the new lines or something, it will keep the line break also. So if we want to get the ancestor is like every thing in Ruby is an object, right? And under this it has a root element and the ancestor. So on the array, the ancestor are enumerable object, kernel, and the basic object. The basic object is the root element. Let's go on the next of range. So when we have a range, we can define something like this. So this will gonna print us all the array, so 1 to 10, and we have this digit like -1 till 9 is a digit, like, and we can do different operation like include, max, minimum, and reject, and this is a condition. So we can process all this. So 1 to 5 equal true. So another way of is like range has these it will check for each of the value and try to understand if 5 is available in this range, or 15 is available in this range. But 1 to 10, if you notice that decimal value is also available, and A to J C is true, but A to J Z is not true. So this is also possible in the range. Symbol. So symbol is similar to string. This is a very common question in programming interview. So what is the difference between string and a symbol? So if you notice, like symbol looks like a variable but is a prefix with a clone, simply something like this. But usually you don't have to declare a symbol, but guaranteed to be unique. So symbol is the most basic Ruby object can create is name and the internal ID. Symbol is useful because given symbol name refer to the same thought on a Ruby programming. Symbol are more efficient than a string. Two string with the same content are a two different object. But for any given name on is only one symbol object, we can have both time and we can say both time and memory. So this is well explained, I believe. So what I mean is like, if you notice that this is a string and the object ID for these two will be very different. If you notice this different, but if you notice a symbol, the object ID is always the same. So this way we can always have the same ID, and this will save the memory as well. Here we have this example in a class. So we have this symbol, all this symbol here, and if you notice that for these two symbol, the object ID is same, because it's a test and test, and for this is different because it's a uppercase. Similar to that, another way is like yes, and if yes is yes, then you are a Ruby, another is no, so you are a Ruby list. If we pass yes here, so it can compare the value also. On a string to symbol, we can convert this string to symbol. Hash is also similar to object. If we define in no other programming, hash will gonna have this key and value, something like this. So if you see that we have this dog, cat, donkey, and this 12, and we can say the length is 4, and we can access by the key dog. It will return this, and we have this h, we can put h and 12, so it will say that contain everything. This h will gonna print the whole object itself, and h12 we're gonna print this 12 value. Using symbol as a hash key. So whenever you would otherwise use a quoted string, use a symbol instead. So example is like, for example, like if you declare a hash, and then this is a symbol. Instead of that, we could use a string, but here we use the symbol, so it's uniquely identified here. So and then we can access this by this symbol key. In the symbolic hash is similar to this. We could, like, if you see that here the way we declare a array of hash, and here we declare is very different. Here we declare as a string, and here we declare as a hash. So the way of defining is different. Just one is hash and one is string. Another way is like we can value pair to create a hash, which is like, don't put anything, you just put something like this. Random number. Random number is very important. Usually sometimes we need to create a random value in our object. So for example, we have this list, right, and we can see the length for each, and we can say that in rand, and then 1 length, 2 length, 3 length, it will define a random number from the list, and then we can phrase it out. So it will define a random from 1, here from 1, and on from n, and then it will define a phrase. We can, this is very interesting if you want to see the result. So every time we print, it will gonna give us a different random value from the list. Read and write file. So when you want to process something from your computer to read and writing a file, or doing some operation on a file, you can read a file using the file object. This R is for reading purposes, and if you see as W, then it's writing. You will sometimes see RB, which is like read as a binary, write as a binary file, and it will read the file, and each of the file it will gonna print it out. So let's try it out, because this will be very interesting. Now we can write the program. So first it will open a file and it will try to read a file. First, I believe this file is not available in my local. Second, it will create a file and it will put some data. So what we can do is we can create the file first and we'll open the file, but let's try it out. Let's comment out this line. So it will create a test.rb. okay, if you notice now it is created a test.rb. Now if you want to read the file, you can say that test.rb, and then you can comment out this line.
It's 6 o'clock.
You see that the whatever we write here is already here. So this is how we read a file and write a file. We can have different mode, so which I have just now mentioned, right? We have this reading file and we are reading as UTF 16 character and UTF 8. So based on your whatever you required, you can do that. We can also use the find operation to find a file and directory, which is also useful. We can randomly access a file, something like that. Seek will gonna help us to randomly move around in the file on the read line. So this is also very useful. So seek end and seek current is the current position. So this is how it works. And seek set is the set the absolute location first integer or number parameter. Regular expression. So this is something we try to avoid. Most of the programmer try to avoid writing a regular expression, but it's very important actually when you learn, because usually we can use some find or include and those Java like any kinds of scripting language to do the matching, but it's good to know regular expression because it's more efficient to find any data or find any value in the string or anything. So if you notice that regular expression in Ruby is similar or put into a slash backslash between two backslash, and it's a class type is always a regular expression. And then we are putting this Ruby into this expression and say the match is Ruby, it will return either true or false. So it will say that it will match a data. So second one is this is a feature M2, and we put the expression here. So M2 is like it's written 14. So this regular expression return the starting position, otherwise it will return a null. So the Ruby starting position is 14. There are different character you can use in regular expression. So this is A. A will gonna search for any character which is A, for example. But however, if you put anything like this, so it's a special character include all this thing, it will return for all the expression character is fine. You can put a wildcard as well, a dot, which will also work. And this is a lot to learn in regular expression. You can look into regex here and see all the pattern and cheat sheet available. So here if you notice that DWS is like W for word, D for digits, and S for string, sorry, white space. So similar to that you can look into this, and all this thing is available in documentation, so I will not go in very details. But here you can see some of the cases, right? 0 to 9 is the range. You can search by digits, and if capital D, it will negate all the digits, something like that. So when you say A and match of B is a null, because A doesn't match with B. But if I search here B, then B it will say return as the index of the number, true or false based on that. This is some of the example, like here is a phone number. Now usually when you use the regular expression, right? It is very useful when you try to look for it. So for example, here if you notice that we have the string and phone number regular expression, and we say that the phone number match regular expression match with the string. If doesn't match was no found, but for us it was found. So we said that m dot put string. So after that whole string found, it will say that the whole string we started with is this, and the inter part of the match is this, which is we extracted this number directly using only this regular expression. And what it says is like it search for a 3-digit of decimal number, which is this, and it must have a opening and closing bracket, and then it look for a white space, and it look for 3-digit number, and it look for another 4-digit number. If it's found, then what it did is like it get the number, and when you say that first match is 1 2 3, which is like this 1 2 3, second match is the 5 5 5, and third match is this. So here it was able to find this number. Okay, so I hope this example is easy to understand, and on the next video we're gonna see the class. Ruby class is a small object, or we can say the small component which will gonna have uh, all the related data or method and everything. So we can think class as a small section of the code which knows all the necessary things that required of this object. So here is a small way to understand. A object is an entity that serves a content of data, control access of the data, associate the object and attribute. So its essentially variable belongs to the object, and set of functions provided the interface and functionality of the object called a method. So in layman term is like a class has a variable, a method, it can have all the implementation of the method or the interface of this method, and it can have those object oriented methodology, like overriding the method or encapsulation of a method using either protected or private variable or something like that. So in a hierarchy of Ruby, so everything Ruby is a class, right? So it's a module and everything. So class name is a here, and every basic object can have a class. For example, our first example here, we have this dog class. Initialization is your constructor where we pass this breed and the name. So we said the breed dot equal to breed and name equal to name, and we put the bark and as a method, and we put the display as a method, and then we said that breed and name of the method. Now every time we declare a dog class, we said that okay, dog is this, and then if we say that d dot bark, it will print this, and if we say d dot display, it will display this, which we can see here the id of the object id. We can see does it responds to talk. It should say d dot talk, otherwise sorry, doesn't understand the talk message. So here we don't have the talk message that method, so that's why it doesn't available. But when it's a bark and display, it's available for the bark and the display. We can display multiple time, and we can d object we put it in different d1, and we set the d equal to nil, and it can display. It still is able to print this because it will create a new reference. whereby in JavaScript you will notice that if you have a object and if you assign to new one, and it will pass as a reference. So this is to understand that talk object is available or not, and then we pass a new one, and then we uh, convert it into string. We also can in the class name itself. So instead of fixed num is not, because number is a um, extension of fixed num class. Literal constructor is like you have either is for string you have hello or hello. For symbol you use the clone before, or you put a clone before the double quote. Array is something like this, hash is this, and range is this. So all these things we have covered so far. So this is the way to literally define something. Garbage collection. In Ruby we have automated garbage collection. So what I mean is, every time you declare a variable, you don't need to clean the memory by yourself. Ruby will automatically clean the memory when the memory is not being used. Here we can see d equal to nil, make a nil reference, meaning that it does not refer to anything. So if you say d1 equal to nil, then dog is abandoned, eligible for garbage collection. So it will say that it will remove the reference for d1 from the memory itself. We have the class method. So class method is nothing but we have different types of method, like normal, like a normal method with a self, and with the instant method and everything, right? So we have different types of method, a static method as well. So we can see the details here. If you notice that um, we say class method. So here we see that we have this self is a with the name of the method, which we can directly declare instead of writing this test and new. So what I mean is, like, here is the call the getter directly. Here you can call method, right? Whereby if you notice here, inst, which you need to call by this test object. So that's how we define a class method and instant method. So this is the instant, and this is the class method itself with the df self, and we explain what does it mean by self and what does it print out when we define the self. So method missing. So method missing is a safety net if the method is available or not, based on that. So so method missing, when we have this method missing, we can simply write this here. So next time another user call some random method, and I think it will write this there is no method or something like that. Without this, this will not work. For we can see the example. Let's see. So here, let's say we don't define this method, okay, and then if we run this, we said that undefined method blah blah blah. But if we have this method missing, then it will say that, hey, this method is not anymore here. So this is a very safety net. We can try it out. I hope this is useful, and I will finish here for this video. We'll see in the next video for the Ruby procs and other example of lambda and everything. Thank you.